Good morrow, YouTube peoples! My name is David, and today I'll be reviewing a recently released album from the internet-based power trio known as Starbomb. If for some reason you have not heard of this band, here's a bit of background. Starbomb is made up of 3 core members. Popular web animator, voice actor, and co-host of the web show Game Grumps on YouTube, Aaron Hansen, also known as Egoraptor. Musician and comedian Danny Sexbang is the other half of Game Grumps, and the first half of the internet comedy band known as Ninja Sex Party. And last, but most certainly not least, is the second half of Ninja Sex Party, theoretical physicist as well as homicidal maniac Ninja Brian. The success of their self-titled album, released in December of 2013, sparked a lot of positive feedback from fans of the web show, fans of comedy music, and especially fans of video games. So it only seemed natural that a follow-up album should succeed and prove to be superior to the first. Unfortunately, due to other commitments and projects that the 3 were a part of, they were unable to make substantial progress on the follow-up album until the second half of 2014. At the PAX Prime 2014 convention, Danny had promised to spend every bit of time working on the album in order to get it to the fans by Christmas. And while many were excited to finally have the album see the light of day, others were nervous that the quality would suffer as a result of their self-imposed deadline. So, how did our primary colored heroes fare after Player Select was released 3 months after this golden promise? Let's find out. Starbomb's musical style has a pretty strong resemblance to Ninja Sex Party's when looking at the instrumentation alone. Lots of synth and bass backtracking with very, very powerful vocal harmonies. It's definitely a style you'll have to become accustomed to, given you've never heard a Ninja Sex Party song or a Starbomb song before. Otherwise it could come across as needlessly grandiose and overpowering, but that's just the way they've always done it. But what sets Starbomb apart from Ninja Sex Party musically is the inclusion of hip-hop, by showcasing Aaron's rapping ability. However, this is a component that drives many fans away because Game Grumps and Ninja Sex Party don't particularly have a hip-hop oriented fan base for the most part, but those who love it tend to love it a lot. Either way you look at it though, Aaron does have rhythm and is able to keep a decent flow going, especially with the Zelda and Simple Plot songs, and Player Select definitely showcases this better than the first album. One of Starbomb's biggest strengths, in my opinion, is their ability to build up to a chorus. Both Aaron and Markiplier, who lent his voice for the album in order to imitate the likes of Xander Mobus, the announcer from Super Smash Bros., are able to provide an energetic build-up to choruses that I can only describe as an explosion of harmonic satisfaction provided by Danny's vocals and the intricate musical backings of a ninja. A fucking ninja produced this music. That being said, however, I do have a couple of nitpicks about some of the lyric choices. Now these are objectively pretty minor depending on how you look at it, but I still think that they're worthy of mention because it kind of shows what can happen if you work a little too quickly. The first one involves them rhyming tough with stuff in 2 different songs that are right next to each other in the very beginning of the album. That's probably why I noticed this one first. Again, a nitpick that's seemingly insignificant by nature, but taking into consideration the crappy lines that these guys have come up with in the past, I know that with a little bit more time, they probably would have been able to come up with something a bit more creative. This next one I have to assume is a result of not having much time to get the lines together. In Glass Joe's title fight, he exclaims that he fights next week for the champion belt. However, later in the same song, Doc exclaims that it's 4 weeks later and it's time for the fight. Again, a pretty forgivable mistake, but knowing that this album's only about a half an hour long, it sure would have been nice if they could have focused on those smaller details while polishing it. Now it's worth mentioning that I didn't notice these issues until about my 9th or 10th listen to the album, and there's a good reason for that. The comedy surrounding all of these mistakes was too potent for me to notice them. Now, a defining component to Starbomb is their comedic potential, and how that combines with the music to create the experience for the listener. Now, the debut album, while creating many funny scenarios, was overflooded by dick jokes. And while many people, like me, could respect them wanting to make themselves laugh, many were turned off from that type of humor, and wrote off Starbomb as being a one-trick pony when it comes to comedy. Well, luckily, the members of Starbomb took this criticism very seriously, and wanted to challenge themselves for the next album to not make one joke about the male reproductive organ, but while still maintaining the comedic soul of the first album. They succeeded. While not completely breaking away from the formula they had established in the first album, place known character in funny scenario, expound on said funny scenario, and have the punchline consisting of the scenario blowing up in the character's face, they definitely did it better in this one by adding some beloved characters from arcade games, as the title of the album would suggest, but while still keeping some of the old favorites from the debut album. But I believe that the biggest step forward is the inclusion of more audio-based comedic skits, which help to emphasize their comedic sensibilities. Along with the traditional intro and outro, I would love to see these return for the next album. I could definitely say that Player Select is a worthy successor of the original debut album. And despite whatever minor problems I may have had with the album, this is definitely the most fun I've ever had listening to music in a long, long time. 30 minutes of just pure, unbridled fun. Nothing that takes away from the experience. I can tell that this album was meticulously worked on with the intention of making the fans as well as the creators happy, and has all of the same soul that a Starbomb album deserves. Starbomb's Player Select gets an 8.5 out of 10. A near perfect album in my opinion, and definitely my favorite album of the previous year. I cannot wait for the next one. Hey, thanks for watching my first review of anything ever. This is kind of a new channel, and I'm honored to have done this review. Make sure you check out the links in the description below to go support the guys that made the album. They do a great job. Subscribe if you want, but more importantly, leave a comment below critiquing this review. I'd love to get better, and any feedback would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching, guys.